ancestor died in 1970 or 1960. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? How much time would it take the librarian to find that information for the person, and why did the librarians begin to call you? And between the 1960 and 1980, you had frequent phone calls. Why did they call you and not look it up themselves?
Well, they made a first attempt to look it up themselves, but it became a big duty because the person didn't give them enough clues to go by. They would miss by a few days in the date of death, or they would have a name misspelled or something. But the library eventually would call me sometimes because they had found out that I had all these records, and then they would get it pinned down with a 2 or 3 minute phone call, instead of them going back to maybe not even find a microphone with what they're going at. They might have to go to the old papers, except that system became blasé because old newspapers crumple and crack and break too easily after very many years in storage.
Ms. Browning, how do you feel this study, this genealogy study of you and your husband's has helped researchers find their ancestors?
It's quite a wonderful medium. First of all, it's alphabetical, and one can find what they're looking for very quickly. If you have an aunt named Lily Smith, you can find her immediately, just like the same way as if you looked up a word in the dictionary. And once you find her survivors. And the survivors are proof that this is your Lily Smith, because you know that Lily had 3 daughters and she had a living husband. So then with this information, one can go back many years with Lily Smith, because it also shows her mother and father were still living when she died. And so then that throws you to another clue. You look up her mother and find the mother and perhaps her grandmother, and the same with the father's side of the family. And you just keep going back and back, and you can go a couple hundred years just from those sources that are on these cards.
You've done lots of genealogy work for the Daughters of the American Revolution. How does this card system help a researcher in regards to their time?
Oh, tremendously, because in proving that a person has, I have to say this right. If you're looking up a person from a genealogical standpoint, the first thing you have to do is prove that that person lived and died on this earth. And how would you go about proving that? Well, there are many ways. You can find a birth certificate, a death certificate, a deed, or a will, or some kind of historical document that would apply to it. But the card system is much faster than any of that. That takes a very long time to accumulate all these other documents that one would.
During this study, the last century of genealogy of these 3x5 cards, has your husband been obsessed with this study?
Well, yes, I would say he has, very much so. He gives it probably 2 hours a day, and sometimes more. And he's very tenacious about the entire project, and he keeps the records that really is just surprising how many he has, and how particular he is about the records. These records are correct, and he will do anything to see that they are correct. So yes, he has been obsessed with it.
Do you find your husband searching this genealogy? He has been in the funeral home industry for the last half a century. Did he get this yearning for good record keeping from his mother or father?
I don't know that, but his tenacity came from his father. I think that. His mother was quite a great lady, really, but his father was the tenacious one. He worked 7 days a week, 16 hours a day, his entire life, and not many can claim that. The only time he had off was Sunday night. He took off Sunday night at 8 o'clock, and that was his only leisure time, from 8 o'clock Sunday until he went to work on Monday morning at 7.
How many days of work has your husband missed?
None. He goes, even if he doesn't feel well, he goes. So really, he outside of vacations, he's at the office. Now, sometimes if he doesn't feel well, he may not stay all day, but he goes.
Do any of your associates at the Daughters of the American Revolution in the Vandenberg County chapter, do any of them use your husband's records?
Oh yes, I think every person who's a member does. They're thrilled with the records. They're just so very, very helpful. And not only do they lead you to the person you're searching, they lead you to more of their ancestors, as I described a while ago.
The libraries in the city, the two main libraries in the city of Evansville are the Willard Library and the Evansville-Vandenberg County Library. Are those people complimentary of this work?
Oh yes. Willard Library told me a long while ago that Mr. Browning's records were the most used resource in their library. Anytime you go to Willard, if one goes up on the second floor and looks at the reading machines, all those machines, all these people are looking at Mr. Browning's records. Of course, they look at other records also, but you will find his records in constant use in the libraries. And Willard is the genealogy library, so one sees it more often there than you might see it at Central Library.
How has the library had foresight in helping this project become computerized?
Well, I think they saw the value of it. I think they knew that genealogy is the second most popular hobby in our country. And it just has grown to be more and more popular. And they, of course, try to meet the needs of the public. And they saw that Charlie's records could lead one to the search that they're pursuing so quickly and easily and accurately that they just really couldn't do anything but recognize it with high repute.
Your father used to work, Roy E. DeWitt used to work for Charles, and did he help type a lot of cards, or did he see the value in these cards?
No, he didn't type cards, but he did see the value. He could see that these cards gave you a first-hand lesson of the city of Evansville. And if you're in business in Evansville, you need to know about the city. And most of all, you need to know about the people in the city. It's a great asset if you know the people in the city, something about their families, how one family ties to another, and another ties to another in a different way, and sometimes there are double and triple ties. And it was very informative, and you think, oftentimes you think, well, I can't remember if that lady has died. Well, it can be embarrassing if you don't know. So you can go to Charlie's file And it'll show, yes, she has died, or no, she has not. So it gives you a social comfort to know some of these facts.
In the 1990s, your funeral home started a biography of all individuals. You were the author of most biographies in the 1990s. Can you tell us how you think the biographies of a deceased person has helped represent the Evansville area and will be a good depiction of the history of Evansville for centuries to come?
These brief biographies of a person who has died can be very interesting. If you read a number of them, you can quickly see that fishing was very important to people. You can see that camping is important. You can see that traveling is important. You see the importance of pets, of relatives, and it tells you about our society, about our culture. Whereas 100 years ago, people were not at all into pets like they are today. They were mostly farm animals. And 100 years ago, there was no traveling. And they fished to have something to eat. So there were all different reasons. So it tells much about the culture of our society and what is prominent and what is not. And but also the biographies tell about that person. Each person who lives has something important in his life, and it needs to be stated because he lived in this world and he was a critical person, at least to his family and maybe some other people. And we need to record his deeds and his achievements and the good about him and some things about his personality. And the cause of death, because that's genetical, and people want to know that. In case they have an illness themselves, they know, well, Uncle Tom died with the same thing I have. So it's heredity. It may not necessarily be, but it does point to hereditary illnesses.
When you wrote biographies on over 1,500 people, did you write biographies just on famous people or on all people?
Oh no, these were the people who we served at the funeral home. If a person died, we wrote a brief biography about that person because we wanted to honor him, to pay a tribute to him, and to recognize him for the good he had done in the world, and recognize him for his feelings for his family and what his daily activities were and where he worked, and just a lot of personal things about this person who was loved.
When you wrote your biographies on all the individuals, or over 1,500 individuals in our Evansville area, were you on a timeline?
Well, yes, because if a person died today, I needed to have that letter ready tomorrow because his funeral would be coming up, and we shared these biographies with all the people who came to visit this person who had died. So yes, it was a time frame, a rather quick one.
Was it difficult to write these letters at first, and did it get easier with time to write a biography of a person?
Yes, it was difficult at first, but it grew to be easier with time. And I think with time I grew to be more skillful. And it became very important to me. I liked doing it. And I liked the end result. I did the best I could. And the family have always been very grateful. They think it's wonderful to have a little biography of someone they loved.
How do you think your biographies are complementary of the card system that your husband has created?
Well, I think they